So what we did when we started the programme was we pulled together 10 messages from the work that's happened so far on transition. What do we know so far that helps young people move into adulthood with good lives? And this is good practice. It doesn't matter what legislation comes or goes, these 10 things will need to be worked on. The first one is about the shared vision. Everybody, every agency focusing on people's life chances and what they've got to do to help deliver that. The second one is raising aspirations. If we don't believe that young disabled people can have good lives, that will affect what we commission, that will affect what we do on a daily basis. So believing that people can have really good lives, but also learning the evidence of what helps people achieve those things, what helps people achieve independent living, good health, housing and employment is important. And those aspirations have to be raised throughout the whole system. It's no good families just being really positive and about what's possible for a good life. You've got to have your connections workers, your teachers, everybody believing and knowing what works. Third one is about developing information with families and young people, and Kath, I know you're going to touch on the local offer, so I won't pick that one up. The fourth one is investing in young people and family leadership. That's essential if we're really serious about co-production and young people and families being involved in decision making locally. You'll recognise some of these people as we go through. Think about inclusion. So think about what the mainstream services should be doing for disabled young people as well. And I think as we're in a very difficult time of change with massive austerity, and I think it's really important that we don't just look to paid services in order for people to have good lives. We should be looking at what the mainstream services should be doing to give equal opportunities to disabled young people. We should also be looking at how we build healthy communities and strong families, as well as the support people need from paid support. And focus on these life outcomes. That's the change we want to see. It's not really whether somebody has a single plan at the end of the day. We hope that will help. It's whether the single plan helps young people achieve these life outcomes. And yesterday we had a really exciting day with Manchester and Darlington, looking at the work you've done so far on the single plan, looking at what's working, what's not working, and then redesigning it for the next stage of testing. And Alistair, you'll be really, really pleased. There's some fantastic stuff in there about how we're going to capture what people's aspirations for life are, how we're going to demonstrate evidence and portfolio of success, and also how it's going to help us plan provision for what support. So we've got the short-term and long-term outcomes, which was something that I know Alice's team was saying they were keen to capture. Okay. Sixth one, well, Manchester we've heard this from the front, haven't we? Reinforced a lot this morning, and Bev and Anna's presentation with Nathan really showed the role that person-centred planning and reviews can play in helping people have a good life and bring services around somebody's support. So we really need to use person-centred support planning, embed that into the single plan, look at personal budgets. We should really be exploring what the potential is with personalised education funding, as well as personalised social care, which I know you've done a lot of in Manchester, and personal health budgets, with personal health budgets person with us yesterday. Thank you. And really looking at how to embed that in the work of the Pathfinder with single plan personal budgets. And I think there's a big issue here for thinking about who are the main agencies that are engaged with young people and their families, and what they understand of person-centred planning, and how they work in a person-centred way and inform that single plan. So there's a big issue for schools, mainstream and special schools and colleges, about what's their role and their contribution in using person-centred approaches, such as one-page plans and person-centred reviews. If we've got these things happening in the system, collecting information for a single plan will be an awful lot easier. Looking at developing a personalised curriculum, so looking at how the changes to the education funding and the programmes of study work are going to enable us to have more personalised curriculums that support people into independent living and into employment and good lives. And it's been really great to be meeting the college again today and finding out what they're doing about that in Manchester. And then the eighth one, it always seems a funny one to say, stimulate the post-16 market. I guess what we're really asking is, do you think in Manchester you can offer the things that will help young people achieve those life outcomes that were up on the board earlier? Have you got things that help people move into good health and a smooth transition and pick up the things that Beverly was talking about this morning? Have you got good things for employment? And what about people who want to set up their own businesses? You know, what's available? Have you got good things that enable people to choose who they want to live with, where they're going to live, and have good housing options? They're the sorts of things when we're talking about provision. And that could be here in Manchester, or it could be working with partners such as ISPs, which I know that we're doing. Set an example by employing young disabled people. We're here in the town hall. I don't know how many people, disabled young people, are employed at the town hall. But I guess the message here is we have to lead by example, and we have to make sure that where families go, they see examples of young people, young disabled people working. That's the main thing that changes families' perception about whether employment is positive or possible. So think about Sure Start centres and all the different places where families go, and how you can have focused effort on people being employed. And lastly, how are we going to listen to young people and their families about what we need to commission for the future? We're really excited about how the single plan and the information for the single plan could help plan provision for who's coming up in the future. You know, we know for too long people know that we've got disabled young people coming through the system, and then there's a big panic and we don't know where they're going. We heard from Alistair today, but some people not knowing what course they're going to be doing, things like that. How is that single plan going to help us plan provision, and how do we need to design it so that it makes that easy? And we've got here use approaches such as working together for change. This was something we did use with the Getting Alive site. We took the person-centered transition plans of young people in the cohort and looked at what was working, not working for young people, and what that meant for what providers were delivering locally and what was being commissioned. I think we can go further, and that the single plans will enable us to do that even more. So we're looking forward to doing that with you next year. Okay, so this was just the last quote I wanted to leave you with, because I do think change is really difficult. It doesn't happen fast enough for many of us. And this is quite a good quote by a woman who's done a lot on change, who said that all change looks like chaos in the middle. So if it feels like chaos, it's okay, you're probably in the middle of it. And I think my last thing would be, think about how you can use us for the time we're here, so we can give you support to take this forwards, and think about how you can support each other and find allies, because real change happens when young people and families and agencies decide to do something different and decide to help people get better lives.